You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 405, Eye of the Storm, where tonight we're going to take a look at both issues of the recent Eye of the Storm comic book written by Charles Soule, which takes place in, obviously, the High Republic era and focuses on everyone's favorite bad boy, Marchion Rowe. And speaking of bad boys, look who's here with us tonight. What a surprise. Jonesy.
I thought I was everyone's favorite bad boy.
You play second fiddle at times, but yeah, it's kind of you kind of go up and, back and forth, I think, between the both of you, but it's your hair, I think, more than anything. I'm just kidding. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm actually really excited to talk about, we actually got some cool news when it comes to the comic front too. So it's kind of cool that we're talking about a limited run series for comics when we got some news this morning that we'll start getting some advanced copies for Marvel Comics. So coming soon.
Oh, are we?
Yeah. As of this morning, we got an email response. I sent a note to our publicist guy and he confirmed we'll start to get them hopefully next week.
Oh,
so
nice.
We'll see if it works out. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So pretty excited.
What titles is that? This is late breaking news. Like I wasn't even aware of this.
You guys are in the know. If you tuned in the live stream, you have hearing this as Albert hears it, even though I copied him in all of the emails.
Well, yeah, I've been
busy,
incapacitated.
Incapacitated, yeah. You look great for having a leveler attack, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. So what are we getting? Like, is it all the comics or just the main titles?
So it's not real clear. In my excitement, I kind of just was like, awesome, that's great, and didn't ask him like how we're going to get them or anything.
Right.
Now, I think they're all digital, but I don't know if they're going to become Adobe or whatever, all the things that they do to make sure they're protected at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very general with my request. I was like, all the Marvel comics. So the ones I think we're probably most interested in are like the flagship, Vader, Aphra, High Republic, obviously, any other High Republic series that comes from that. Maybe a little Bounty Hunters. I don't know. I don't know if Crimson Reign and like the Hidden Empire and things like that might come too. So I've got really high expectations. We'll see how many come true. But again, these are usually kind of iterative, but first time going into the Marvel verse, if you will. So it's pretty exciting for us to kind of take a new step forward, though.
Well, that's great. I'm so happy. I wish I'd read email. I would have known about this earlier or sooner.
Yeah,
but
I wrote a really nice kiss-ass note, too.
Did you? Okay. Good job.
No,
Good on you.
Well, yeah. I was pretty proud of myself. Hey, and I have started a list for people who are in the live chat tonight.
Oh, look at you. Man,
this is how on the ball I am tonight.
You are Mr. Cantina Cast tonight.
You don't even know who I am right now.
I don't. So, well, that's good.
Say my name. I'm kidding.
No. All right, let's talk.
Yeah. So, we've got a little bit of news to get to tonight.
Yeah, just a few things. Let's talk about this. I guess I've been in the woods all weekend, and then I got sick, and when I came back today, I saw something posted about Star Wars tickets going on sale for Celebration. I'm like, how did I miss this? This was not on my radar. I'm sure it was for a number of people, because the minute the tickets went on sale, I kept getting, people were posting, I got my tickets, go get tickets. But I got my tickets. So
do you have a plane ticket yet?
No, I'm kind of working on that still. I'm waiting for the gas prices to come down.
That's probably not a bad idea right now.
I've got 2 out of 3. I've got a place to stay and I've got a ticket. So
right. I mean, push comes to shove, you can just walk yourself out.
I can drive it. Yeah, Uber it, whatever I got to do. But
Uber it.
But yeah, they went on sale today. The VIP sold out within minutes as usual.
Yeah, there probably weren't that many left of those anyway.
Yeah,
the 4-day adults also gone now too. As
the
is
the 4-day adults are gone?
Yeah, the 4-day adult as well as the Saturday adult. Those are the only 3 that are currently sold out. So oddly enough, you can get a 4-day child ticket, without a 4-day adult ticket, which I don't understand how that works, but and then but everything else is available. So it's roughly $75 per day for an adult ticket, and I think it's like $35 a day for a child ticket, roughly, if you're doing them day by day. So if you're interested, if you're going to be out in Anaheim, we will be there, or at least I will be there. Hopefully Albert will I've got a plane ticket and a place to
no,
stay.
for me, I said to be determined. I don't know how I'm going to get out.
I'll just stuff you in my suitcase and we'll get you there.
If anybody's driving, if you're within the sound of my voice and you're driving and you want to swing by Austin and pick me up, we can do a road trip. We'll film it. We'll put it on Instagram, all the socials, and live stream it. It'll be a lot of fun.
You can make a montage out of it.
We could even make an 80. I will gladly edit that 80s montage with graphics and sound myself. Music that I have composed myself as well. So
that you've composed.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's not hard. You just bang, you just get a little, keyboard and beep, 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 and
Wait, hold on. Music. You're telling me you probably got one like the really short Casio keyboards, don't you?
No, I've got a keytar. I've got the whole get-up
man.
With the strap.
Yeah, but the little ones are so...
They are cute.
They're great.
Okay, so enough of that. But yeah, Celebration will be there, maybe. And we're looking forward to meeting everybody. I'm excited. There's some folks that I saw on Twitter that are mutuals, but I have never really interacted with them outside of just Twitter, and they're going to be there. And so I'm already pinging them and trying not to sound like a stalker because I don't want it to sound awkward, like, oh, can I see you kind of thing. I don't know how to approach that. Like, what do you ask?
You just don't tell them. You say, I will see you there.
Yeah. Hey, you want to meet up? Or
just embrace it, I mean, if they know you at all, you're going to be like...
Yeah, they already know I know their social security number, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, you know their like all of their children and their lineage and their heritage. You've already mapped it out on 23andMe. It's fine.
Yeah. So, yeah. So don't get creeped out if I ask, can we meet up?
It's part of why we love you. Ish.
Okay.
Other news. StarWars.com released some Marvel release or pre-release little previews of what's coming in June. Mm-hmm. So a couple of ones that are probably of note for folks are going to be Chrysanthemum is going to be part of issue 4 for Han Solo and Chewbacca, which released this past week. The first issue there. We've got the Mandalorian comic adaptation for season 1 is starting in June as well. It won't be the first appearance for Din and Baby Yoda, Grogu on the cover, but it will be their first standalone series. So collectors might be interested in some of those. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of variant covers. There's also a very interesting cover for Obi-Wan Kenobi #2, which has a very suspicious looking beast on the cover. So definitely go check that out. And there's a bunch of other great issues too. And then the Pride covers are coming back out in June as well, which were released back, I think probably 6 months ago or something like that. It was like issue 11 or something like on Star Wars. But and then like you had pointed out before the show, we've got some excitement for Star Wars issue number 25, which is Charles Soule's, what is it, like his 100th? I think his 100th Star Wars issue, in total of everything he's done. And they gave him permission to basically do like pulling in from all of these different eras and everything and coming up with some crazy story. So when you look at the cover, you got everything from Kylo to a younger Obi-Wan and Anakin, and just you got stuff all over the place on it. So no idea what that actually is going to look like, but it's kind of an interesting idea. If anybody's got something cool they would show, is going to be Charles Soule.
Yeah, and those like in comic book, when you get to 25, that's usually a milestone. So are the 50. Every increment of 25 for the most part. Once you get to 100,
especially for writer,
for writer, yeah, you're right. But they have some kind of special story. There's an introduction of a prominent character, or somebody dies. There's usually big news in it. And the fact that he's got all of these characters on there for.
Wait, did you just confirm that Kylo Ren is going to die?
Yes, Kylo Ren does die.
Oh, no.
Issue 25. But yeah, they usually have something kind of cool. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see it, honestly, or read it. Because we don't have enough Kylo Ren material, honestly. I know there was a lot of people, all the Raylos got really excited in my little Raylo group there about maybe we'd get something with him and Ray, or who knows. But
it's still one issue, and it's not a supersized issue or anything, so it's likely to be a bunch of flashbacks. Well,
it could be. I think that would make sense.
That series is set during Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
around that time. So it's kind of interesting why how those covers are all going to come together, how all those characters are going to come together on the cover. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all cool stuff. I mean, Celebration, more comics. What's not to like?
I know, right?
Here's what to love. We got a new Patreon subscriber. Another Patreon subscriber. Jay MacArthur signed up for the green milk tier. So Jay, thank you so much for doing that. That's again a Subway sandwich a month or a cup of coffee at Starbucks per month, but instead you've chosen to support our show, and we can't thank you enough. So sincerely, thank you very much.
Yeah, it means a lot. We appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah, I got to update the credits again.
You do, man. See, this is what people should subscribe to Patreon just to make sure that you update them every single week.
Drop every every other week and add yourself back every other week, so that way I have to just keep, make my life miserable.
Oh no, don't do that. But I mean, still, but if you want to, I won't begrudge you for it either.
Yeah,
because just to hear Albert squirm before the show, like, crap, I didn't update the credits again.
It's every week. Every week, literally, that's what happens.
Well, hey, and you put a call out last week about our voicemail. We talked about it.
Yep.
And we had someone deliver on it.
Yes. Did you know we have a voicemail?
I did know we had a voicemail because we have a phone number.
We do have a phone number.
That you don't remember the number for.
No, but guess what? I'm one step ahead of you, Mr. Jonesy. My friend.
Look at that. He brought it back on the ticker.
I got a ticker. So our phone number is 803-717-CAST. That's 803-717-2278. If you'd like to call, please leave your name. Now, you can call us, leave a voicemail.
Operators are standing by.
Yeah. You can text us as well. You can text us pictures, and we'll reply back with pictures. And I don't know. Or if you're in the mall or something. Nobody goes to the mall anymore. Okay, maybe you're somewhere at I don't know, a store, and there's something that looks like a Star Wars thing that you think we'd like. Take a picture, text it to us. We'd love to see that kind of stuff. So it's been around for like 2 years, but we finally got a voicemail from Tyrone. Yeah. So yeah, actually, it has been longer than that. So I'm gonna attempt to play this on the air. We should have tested this before, but you know what? That's how it goes when I show up like 3 minutes before the show starts. So here we go. I'm going to add this to the stream here. And
hey, this is Tyrone. Really love your show. Just found out you guys have a number, so I was trying to let a message that said I love your show. And I had an interesting show idea for you guys because you guys are so in depth. I didn't like the last 3 movies until I thought about the movies differently as the Palpatine saga. I feel like the movies are more about Palpatine than they are about Skywalker. So looking at that viewpoint with all the books and all the movies combined, I think the Palpatine saga would be an interesting subject. All right, you guys are great. Talk to you later. Bye.
Look at that. That was from Tyrone.
Yeah, appreciate
that worked,
it, Tyrone.
Right? You could hear it?
Yeah, no, I heard great. Came through great. No, it was actually a good, really clear voicemail too. We've had some where they don't really work out that well, but yeah, thanks Tyrone for doing it. Yeah, we've kind of brought it up a couple of times. I think you and Mike brought it up a bit too, during some of the days when I was out, and Palpatine really, his fingerprints are all over the entire 9 movie saga and everything in between, right? And so I think this is something it's definitely a thing, and they doubled down on it. Talking about Charles Soule, doubled down on it in the Vader comic, right? And effectively, in my perspective at least, effectively confirmed that he helped create Anakin Skywalker, or at the very least manipulated his gestation. So I mean, it's like that fancy word, gestation.
Gestation.
I'm in the know.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So it's not it's not crazy.
No, it's not. I mean, yes, the series is about Anakin Skywalker. At least the first 6 movies, you could argue, are definitely about Anakin Skywalker. The next 3 came out. That got turned into kind of like, oh, let's rebrand it as a Skywalker saga. I get that. But, he makes a good point. If you really look at it holistically, because of the way that last movie ended, and the fact that we didn't have, we had a pseudo Skywalker, or somebody who took the moniker of Skywalker, then it's just as much as Palpatine's story as it Anakin's. And that's not probably fair to say, because at the end of the day, I truly believe in my heart it really is Anakin's story. But there would be no Anakin if there wasn't a Palpatine, right? At every facet of his life, from the very beginning until literally the very end. And even beyond that, right? He lived past Anakin Skywalker, and made his reappearance there in The Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, I get it. It would be an interesting take, though. So I don't know. Maybe we can do something with that sometime down the road. But nonetheless, thank you very much for the voicemail. It's always cool to kind of see that pop up, and we have the ability to play it on there and give you the 5 minutes of fame that you deserve for going the extra mile. So,
I mean, what I like about it though is there's with a protagonist, there's usually an antagonist that's always right there with them along the way, so that you would have 2 bloodlines or family bloodlines running in parallel with one another and crisscrossing and weaving.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a ton of sense. I mean, and again, it's a little uneven there at the end, but yeah, I mean, it is very much a thing. And I really hope we do get some sort of prequel Palpatine at some point that tells us, that finally rips off the Band-Aid of Plagueis and all that good stuff.
Oh, you want to get into all that?
That's really, well, I mean,
yeah.
I want to know what's canon and what's not canon anymore. Like, what's the actual story now? How similar is it to what we know, or is it very, very different now?
Yep.
Inquiring minds want to know, Albert.
No one gets that reference, Jonesy, except me and anybody that's like over the age of 30.
That's most of our listeners. Many of our listeners.
I don't know.
We have old souls for listeners. It's okay.
That we do. I'm going to try to stall here because
what do I need to talk about to buy you time?
So I made an album. So I want to save we're about to get into the actual comic now. But I actually created an album of pictures. I took some pictures of the comic without ruining the comic, right? There was just some key moments, some key pictures that I wanted to show, and I don't know where they are. So Jonesy, let's start with you. Why don't you just kind of walk us through, who wrote it, who penciled it, and then some opening thoughts, and I'll let you know if I found it by then.
Okay, sounds great. Of course, it's written by Charles Soule. Pencils were by Guillermo Sana, and I believe Mario and did a lot of the artwork as well, if I recall.
Yeah, I think so too. Like that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that you said that, and I was like, whoa, yeah, you're right. I did see very similar.
Yeah, of course, there were tons of different covers to this thing too. But yeah, generally speaking, this is the premise of the book was to really give us a bit of a backstory on not only Marchion Ro, but a bit of Marchion Ro's family and his people. We didn't even know what his species was, I believe, until this comic came out. I think it's the first time they actually confirmed what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, we'll talk through some of that stuff, but also just to give you an idea of, what that progression was. And some of the things that we've seen in the books are brought up in the comic. Some of them kind of a replay of a scene, different perspective, or maybe a little bit before or after. And what's interesting about this 2-part series is that there's no kind of middle act. It kind of goes straight from everything we knew kind of up to Light of the Jedi-ish, and then it jumps right to more or less after Fallen Star, while it's still ping-ponging back and forth. But what I liked about it, though, is that we do get a much better idea for what Marchion drivers are, both from a bloodline perspective, but also where the levelers came from. And it's plural, right? These things exist. But what's also frustrating about comics is that they give us all of these things, but they don't really give you a really cohesive, definitive story that tells you and just lays it all out for you flat, right? That just here's everything it is. There's still a lot of things to interpret as you go through it. All right, Albert's giving me the signal. He's good to go.
Oh, yeah.
Gave up. One of the two.
I gave up. No, I haven't. Okay. I'm ready. But no, I would agree. So this particular comic was interesting in that, like you said, it's 2 parts. When I opened up the cover, I really kind of went into this one blind. I know that sounds weird because I like spoilers and all, but there was just something about this comic where I felt like if they reveal some of the origins of Marchion Ro, I kind of want to go in without spoiling it for myself. I just wanted to kind of experience in that. And man, I was so excited when I opened that cover, and we pull the Band-Aid off within the first 2 pages and jump right into his background. And then the second one wasn't necessarily bad, I would say. I wanted more of the background, and I wasn't expecting it to go flash forward literally almost to the very end. I mean, this comic book, for anybody who has not been keeping up with it or know anything about it, this is the final piece of literature that ends phase 1. Right. Some of the events in that second comic are well after all of the books have happened in phase 1. So just a quick disclaimer: we are going to spoil the comic. We probably at this point can talk about anything that's relevant to the Fallen Star, because there is some stuff that happens at the very end of issue 2 that references some of the things that happens in Fallen Star, as well as some of the things that happen in Midnight Horizon. Which I don't want to spoil that because we are definitely going to break that one down a little bit later. But yeah, the way it was split up was pretty interesting. But honestly, I could have gotten a 6-issue series on Marchion Ro, and I would have been pretty happy. But I think that's probably going to be something we get over the course of the next 2-3 years. Is really what's going to happen. So,
what I thought was interesting though about it is that The book felt really long. Each issue felt really long. They broke it into 3 parts for each
3 acts.
book. Yeah, in each one. And it really didn't feel like a 20 or something or 30 something page book. It really felt like 40 or 50 pages. It was really dense to where
Yep.
yeah, there was a lot going on. And again, it wasn't always like the beginning part, the first 10 pages, you could probably summarize in about a paragraph, but as you start to peel back the layers of what that meant and you start to try to pull the character into that is where it gets really interesting. So hopefully we'll be able to get into some level of detail for that. So maybe we should stop teasing and just getting into it now.
Yeah. Let me share my screen here. Before we do, I didn't get a cover of this one, but that's the cover. I just had it here. Everybody's kind of seen that one. I've got the other ones
listening. It's the same as our title card. Look at it.
Yeah, the title card. Well, they can't do that either, but yeah, it's a.
Well, they can see it on the feed.
I'm kidding. And then I'm holding up the variant edition for number 1, which is cool. I picked up the variants on these. I think I got all of them. There's number 2. Sitting there is the Thinking Man. Marchion wrote the Thinking Man. And then that's the last one there. Right. It's not going to focus because there it goes. But that's just him without his mask and looking very kind of a hands-looking guy. Yeah,
very stoic.
Very stoic. All right. So let's see. So this let's add this to the stream. And it starts with he's kind of sitting in his throne. He's sitting there talking to somebody. You don't know who that is until the very end, and he's basically saying, "You're afraid of me." Is kind of what we're showing right now. But yeah, he's sitting aboard the Gaze Electric. At least in this particular very first part of the comic in issue 1, this does take place post Fallen Star. And we get right into the first act, which is called, every one of these acts has like a little, well, I don't know what you would call this, maybe a descriptor of a descriptor sentence of some sort.
Right. Yeah. It's got almost like a theme. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's better.
Think about like the way the Clone Wars had like a little byline at the very beginning.
There you go.
Think kind of like that. Yeah.
But scene 1 is called The Truth, and it says, in which a people learn valuable lessons and are greatly changed by them in all ways but one. So right out of the gate, we get to learn about his home planet, which is Everon. Did I say that right? Yeah, Everon. And we know this takes place a long time ago. And again, I don't want to show everything because I want, that wouldn't be cool to show all the artwork and all that. But we learned that his species is Evereni, and that name means stewards or caretakers, which is completely ironic because if you think about Marchion Road, the last thing he's doing is taking care of anybody but one person, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But a very interesting place. Like, they live on this planet that has perpetual storms, and they've built, these people go in and they build these cities or these lands that are very beautiful, very majestic. Again, I'm only showing one little clip here of what it looks like, but very intricate. It looks like they're kind of like floating in the sky almost, kind of like there's a couple of video games out there like Final Fantasy and Skyriders and stuff like that, right? But these homes that they live in are floating in the sky, and they're almost naive, right? They're almost primitive to some extent in the regard to the world, in that, if we give back to Mother Nature will give back to us, and they almost follow this pretty blindly.
Well, they viewed it as more as a symbiotic type of relationship, though, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that was the aspect of it, it was that give and take. We respect the environment we have. It's challenging, yes, but it also gives us, great things from it until it takes everything away, and it doesn't make any sense. And this is where the lessons start to come into play, where everything was fine. They live as people until they can't trust their planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, they call this, the tempest. This is where the idea of a tempest comes from, is from Everon, where these, storms can just erupt, and they have a once in a millennium type of an event. And we learn what that is, later on, but it just completely obliterates most everything that they have.
Yeah. And in fact, if I remember correctly, they called it the Great Storm, that nearly wipes out everything. And so, I guess kind of a key point here also is this is where, the origins of Storm and the Tempest and the Cloud Riders. I mean, like, you look at some of the imagery, it's like, oh, okay, this is obviously where they got it all.
And this is probably like a century or more ago, centuries ago.
Yeah.
So this is not like Asgard or his, his direct lineage of great grandparents or anything like that. This is ancestors.
Right. Yeah. I think it just said long time ago.
Yeah, they didn't really give us a time, but yeah.
No, you're right. We're led to kind of believe that this did take place much longer than we were expecting. I think out of the gate here. But yeah, I mean, it's just a series of unfortunate events that start kind of take place for them. Let's see if I got another one here. So yeah, this great storm comes, starts wiping out all of their towns and kind of puts them in disarray. They almost go into like this post-apocalyptic type environment where they are having to survive, and they quickly find out that the rulers, the people that are bejeweled and have all the money, suddenly turn their backs, I guess, on the common people that are suffering because of this great storm, and go so far as to, like, I think there's one image in here where, like, I think they kill some of them as well.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's the thing. They keep learning these lessons, and they keep learning, and I think you're going to see these parallels with how Marchion Row works things later on, and with Asgard too. But yeah, there's this cycle that starts to develop, and so they can't trust their world. Okay, so then there's a few of them, and they can't trust their kin or their people, right? And then they can't trust their families, and they can't trust. I mean, they learn a lesson that they can't trust this, and until they finally have to explore off world. If there's too many people and there's not enough food, the solution is to reduce the number of people, right? These are things that really are rooted in our reality. That these are debates that come up as like, what do you do if you can't feed the planet? The easy answer is make more food, right? But as we see in some of these images, it's like, no, if you can't provide, then they kick out the one who they think is the problem.
Yeah,
and literally kicking the father of the the family off the platform. Yeah,
and this guy was like, he went out to go fish to go get food, and I guess I don't know, I kind of perceived it as though he didn't fish enough, or he didn't come back with enough, and so he was like, well, we got kids, and sorry, Dad, but you're just not cutting it. So she kicks him right off the ledge, and I don't know, he falls to his death on this planet. I guess I don't. But that's kind of the state. So what they're doing is they're setting up the mentality that the Rows come from, and we'll see really good examples of this, of how this just kind of manifests and evolves and matures. I guess is not the best word to use, but it definitely you're starting to see the origins of Marchion Row and his family, and what makes him tick, and why he's wired the way he is. And it's a lot of it is just ancestry, and that's just how their people were raised and brought up. So at some point here, there's a couple of other. Let me see if I've got any more here. So yeah, so they end up going into kind of despair. Things get really desperate, and finally, a group of these Everuni decide they're going to go ahead and just leave off-world. They're going to jump into these spaceships, which is very like right out of 50s movies.
Right.
But they take off, and they become the Wanderers. For lack of a better term, they're heading out to just go find. Their world is in such chaos that they want to go find a better place to live. Right. Before we move further, the one thing I did want to add about this planet is this is a really cool planet. Like I really hope at some point we go back to this planet, like or learn more about it. Either, and maybe it doesn't have to be in this series. A lot of times these things kind of creep up in comic books later on. They may make a note of it or something, but it's very interesting to think that. I'm curious as to where this planet is. I guess is where I'm going. Right? Is it in the galaxy that we're in now? Is it a deep space past the outer rim kind of area? Is where I'm thinking, because the core worlds would know about this planet, and yeah, it's a big galaxy, and I get it, but this is a very unique planet, given that there's just perpetual tempests, and these people live there, and maybe their lineage is gone, and maybe that's why nobody talks about it, and it's just a world that's rocked with weather now. But in my headcanon tells me that this thing they lived somewhere beyond the outer rim, and as they were making their way towards the center of the galaxy is when they kind of started butting heads with the Republic and the Jedi.
It'd be really interesting if this was out like in wild space, or out there closer to the Chiss or something like that.
Mm-hmm. The same kind of color of skin. I mean, there were some people that were theorizing
grayish, but yeah,
they're more of a grayish. But I know people were theorizing, maybe he is Chiss, and he's just like some descendant of a Chiss, or some slightly different shade of a Chiss that lived 2 planets down, or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was a lot of theories that were going on.
Seem to put that to rest, though. Yeah, to rest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But this is definitely a new species.
Right. So the panel you have up right now, though, these are some really interesting and good lines that they talked about. Right. It talks about that they quickly started to hone their senses that if they can, they figured out that as long as I can trust you and you're loyal to me, then we can work together to do this. But they also learned very quickly and in a very fine-tuned way of identifying that moment where your interests and your desires no longer aligned. And again, you go from working together quickly to just completely annihilating each other once again and turning against one another. And again, you start to see this trend of how Marchion Ro and even Asgard to an extent operate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as we get into the story, and as we look at just kind of what we know about Marchion Ro already from the books. But again, you start to see these brands start to develop, and their hubris though starts getting most of them. They're a small band. They're not a big band of people. They're not a big group, and the rest of the galaxy they weren't the only ones, and they didn't quite understand that they weren't the only ones. They were still very small-minded in a way, or very localized. Maybe is more the more appropriate term. And they didn't know a lot of exploration. So while they went thinking they could do a bunch of conquest and again just take what they want, again kind of more Nihil type of themes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, at some point the galaxy pushes back, and you start to see kind of what we see in the current timeline, where there are many of them, and then they get smacked down, and there's fewer of them, but then somehow out of nowhere they start to rebuild and they grow again. So there's this constant expansion and contraction of these groups. But as we progress through this kind of backstory here, we start to understand more clearly, though, that at the end of the day, it's a very singular focus, and it's a very singular person that they've learned to trust, and the only one you can really rely on is going to be yourself. And this is where I had I had questions for you around, is that as we get through some of these panels, we have a female, or presumably a female, that comes up as a wanderer, right? And she's like, hey, can you, right here, yeah. So you have to take care of yourself. But yeah, she comes to this group saying, hey, I need, I don't have anything to offer, but it's cold. Can I sit with you? And they, yeah, sure, we have food and everything else.
Yeah.
And she shares wine with them and of course kills them all.
Yep.
Do you think that the Rose are in any way related to this woman?
Yeah, I think they were trying to allude that this, I don't know about interbreeding, or I'm not going there, but it does feel like this particular character and really all of them are the descendants. Like they're like Marchion Ro and Asgard and his mom that we'll get to here. They are descendants in some way of these people, if not physically, then certainly on every other account, whether it be, psychologically, mentally, emotionally. These are all these are all the traits that we see in Marchion Ro and Asgard and the Nihil, like you said. And really, what you're picking at here is that it boils down to they got this reputation of going around to the galaxy, to different planets, to different people, taking what they need, or creating these beneficial relationships. But the minute things started to shift, where there was nothing now, the balance was shifted, where they weren't getting what they wanted from that person, they just offed the person. Like they just killed them and got rid of them without even a second thought. Well, their reputation started to catch up with them, and they suddenly became hunted. I think they were called, I think it was in the panel before this, the Evereni were deemed outlaws, and they became hunted. So the galaxy, like you said, started pushing back. They started going after them and trying to take them down, because these guys are, they're an infestation, right? They're toxic in every way, no pun intended there. But to your point, the only thing that they really started to kind of hone on was we don't care about anybody else but ourselves. And so the name caretakers takes this very perverse kind of meaning by the end of this particular part here, because you're thinking they started as the caretakers of the world, right? They were taking care of their planet, and they loved their planet, and didn't sound like they had a bad bone in their body. And by the time they get to this point, they are just cold-blooded murdering people left and right, taking what they want. And really the caretaker piece stuck, but it's, again, more about themselves than anyone else, right? If your interest can align, if their interest can align with yours, then you're fine. The minute that shifts or changes, you're done.
Right. And you start to see the way that the Nihil ideology is taking shape. And it also makes sense why you only see one or two of these Evereni at a time, right? Whether it's the Rose or the Rose Mother or something like that. And these pages where the idea of forming a group with a mutual benefit, with a mutual interest, but you really have they're just a weapon, really.
Yeah.
They're just a blade, right? And we're going to have some really great lines here from Rose's grandmother in just a minute, but it's just interesting to see how the history of the culture translates directly into this misfit band that the Everini then put together, very much in the same way, but it's their blunt instrument.
Yep. Let's move into scene 2. Scene 2 is called The Lie, and it reads, in with a small family of Everini wanderers in the time of the High Republic find something they sought for generations. And this is a very, like we talked about it being dense. This particular one is super dense. There's so much that gets, we'll probably end up spending a lot of time on this one, quite honestly. But it takes place 20 years before the events of the Great Disaster. So presumably Marchion Ro is probably, I would say he's probably about 8, 9 years old, maybe 10 at the most at this point. And we've got an image right now where he's standing here just staring at this lifeless Mary Santeca, right? The corpse that seems to be just kept alive for nefarious purposes. But we get a lot of insight in this particular chapter. We get a lot of insight into the house itself, into House Ro. We learn about Asgar's mom, Marchion Ro's grandmother named Shala. We also learn that the Nihil were actually started by her mother. So it's almost like it was started by, I wouldn't say it's a patriarchal society in any way, but it was the grandmother that started it, passed on to her daughter, then passed on to Asgar, who then passed it on to Marchion. And when I say passed on,
we use that pretty loosely.
very, very loosely. It wasn't like a son, I'm going to hand over the keys to you. This was a son, you're going to watch me die here, and that's cool. But yeah, it was very cool to see Mari Santeca, and at least get some confirmation that she's been around. Like when we had talked about her back in, what was it? Was it the Rising Storm that we first got her in?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember now, but whenever it was, we had a lot of speculation as to, how old was she? When did she come in? Is she a prisoner? And I would say her relationship is very similar to the way what we saw in the the Rising Storm. Like,
yeah, it's very consistent.
It's consistent. I think it's fascinating in a very sick and perverse way, but it's just, I don't understand how she got in here and how she seems to be just okay. Like, she's a very nice person here as well as she was in the book, where she's like, oh, Marchion, and hey, so-and-so. And I can't tell if that's her being nice. Is she delusional? I just don't know, but it's a very weird relationship that they have where they just kind of keep her in a jar like this.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up.
Yeah. So we've got an image here where we've got a little pipsqueak of a Marchion Ro. He doesn't get very much larger. Now, here's the one thing that I thought was really creepy about all of this.
Yeah, he's disturbed. Yeah.
This guy is messed up. So, and this is an aspect of Marchion Ro that we have, to my knowledge, I don't recall this ever coming up in the books.
No, there's no way that we had been described that he sees people differently.
Yes.
As we see it here, who's, like you said, it's kind of like a skeletal corpse almost.
Yeah, I mean, in the show notes I see dead people because he looks at people and he sees death. And I guess that's my interpretation of it. But literally in the comic, it shows Mari Santeca, and then, I mean, they've gone to great lengths to recolor it. It's like all in red, as it's Mari Santeca's face. It's all in red. Her eyes are all sunken in, like her eyeballs are gone. Like, she looks like she's a dead corpse or something, a shriveled up dead corpse. Not that she doesn't look like that alive already, but she looks much worse in this image. But I mean, how creepy! And this isn't the only one. Let me see if I got the other one here. Did I get the other one? I didn't. There was another one where he's looking at his grandmother,
his dad,
and his dad. Yeah, and he looks at them, and they're dead to him too. So yeah, he's got some. Now, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree here, which we'll see in just a little bit. So this whole family, I mean, they've got some pretty serious mental issues.
Right, but the really interesting part of it, though, is Shala, right? Because like you said, we learned that her mother set up the Nihil, but also she watches Marchion very closely, and she's identified that Marchion is something special because who is the first person that he gravitates towards? It's the person with all the power.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've got this, we start to get these ideas that there's been this plan that they've created the Nihil, and they have this. Yeah, they haven't really done anything with it, but they've created this group with the idea of attacking the Republic and attacking the Jedi. They have some old business to settle, right? There is a score to settle in some way that we still don't really have a totally clear picture about. But she sees this she recognizes this ability in him that, there is something he is going to be, where the Nihil or the blade, or maybe the Everini, their history is the blade. He is the sharpest point. He's the part that's going to finally push this whole thing forward and actually accomplish what they want to happen. And that's kind of where Asgard and Shala start to get into a bit of a disagreement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I took it as though there's a part of me that thinks that Asgard felt like, hey, we've been talking about the plan for a long time, too long at this point, right? With Grandma, now with you, let's just get moving here. But then I started thinking about it too. I wonder if at any point he started to feel like, wait, what about me, Mom? Right?
Yeah.
I
think that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
You're calling out Ro or Marchion as the blade and the one that almost like a chosen one, almost like a prophecy of sorts. And yet here I am in front of you, fully capable, ready to go, integral part of the planning that's been going on for years. And, you're talking about that kid. And this kind of plays into a very sick thing that happens in just a few minutes here, as well, which probably could, I don't know, you could interpret it that way.
Right. But again, we learned that the whole idea of the paths, and this is why Asgard has got such an issue with this, is that he is pretty much responsible, I guess, for the creation, or for getting Mari to whatever it is that they're working with the paths to make them work, and to basically do them on command and things like that. So it's Asgard's work that has been, presumably putting all of that forward, because he's petitioning her to say, okay, they're ready. We need to, the time is now. He kind of sounds like the Tempests, to be honest with you. The time is now. We should be doing it kind of like Paneta. We should be striving now. We should be acting now. We've got the paths work. We should do it. Enough of this Marchion stuff. Let's jump in there. And she's completely against it. Like, no, not now. And to your point, I think that's exactly the moment where he's like, well, what the heck? We have all these things, and now you're going to show weakness, and again, this is where we come back to the whole caretaker mentality of, are you willing to strike and take action, or are you just kind of sitting on your hands the entire time?
Yeah. There's it's funny you said that. As you were saying that, I'm thinking of Krennic in Rogue One, where he says, we stand here amidst my achievements. Yeah. It's kind of a same vibe that you get from this little moment.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that way. That's very true.
There is and really what they're kind of disagreeing, because again, so Asgard wants to move forward with the plan. She says Mari's not ready. I don't know what that really means. In particular, I think he proves that that she is, in just a little bit as well. But they also make mention of the great destiny, and they don't really elaborate on this much at all. At this point in the comic, and even this is the one thing, like you said, there's like, we got some great answers, but there's still some things that are just kind of like fundamental that we do not understand. And first and foremost is, we don't know why, even at the end of this comic, why he is after the Jedi. He says some things, and we'll talk about that when we get to issue 2, but they talk about this great destiny, and the mom's pissed off at the Republic and the Jedi, and Grandma was mad at the Jedi, and when Grandma's mad, nobody's happy, kind of thing. So I don't really understand why they're still after it, and I imagine we're going to get some background in that at some point, but they have been planning this for a very long time, and they speak about destiny as though this was their destiny, is to bring the fall of the Republic, or bring the fall of the Jedi in some way.
Right. I mean, there's clearly, there's bad blood. Again, this seems to be a holdover for potentially generations, right? And maybe not even just these 2 or 3 or 4 generations that we're seeing and hearing about on these few pages, but there's some sort of atrocity, and this kind of goes back to the potential prophecy that you've brought up a few times of, the sins
the nameless.
The sins committed against the nameless. There's a reckoning, right? And something is directly linked to either the Everini or the Ro family specifically. And again, this is where Kufa and some of the characters that we were introduced briefly in Rising Storm, it's kind of, I mean, there's something there, but it's just out of reach and we can't quite see it. It's still opaque and we can't touch it quite yet. But they keep dropping so many. Now they're just like throwing breadcrumbs at us.
Yeah.
They're just wadding up loaves of bread and throwing it at us, but they're still not letting us eat it.
Speaking of throwing things. Yeah. So she makes some cheap comments. So they get in this argument, right? You can see here, we've got her up. And do I have the picture here? Yeah. So they get into this argument and she makes a off comment about, she takes a dig at him and says something about, why don't you go kill some people, like, your worthless dad and your worthless grandfather, to paraphrase. And he's like, okay, sure, I will. And then next thing you know, we cut over and he like kicks her off the balcony, or
a thud behind Marchion.
Yeah.
He's like,
and so he turns around, he sees his grandmother laying there dead. I mean, she looks completely soulless. Her eyes are all blacked out in this particular image, but it doesn't even faze him. Like, he's not bothered by this at all. This is just a common thing that happens probably among his people.
Yeah, this kid grew up like on a 70s horror movie or something.
Yeah. So that's the end of Shala Row. For all of the 2 pages that we got. The other thing, just really quickly on Shala Row, they also mentioned that she did fight the Jedi and the Republic at some point. She battled them. Okay, so there is some history there with her particularly. And then there was I forget, later on, Kazav and Pan talk about her, and they mentioned that she's a survivor. So it sounds like she's been through some stuff.
It's a line of BS though.
Well.
Because they say the exact same thing about Asgard too.
Well, that's the funny, the common theme there is a bunch of butt kissers. But a survivor, she had good connections, she had good ideas, and
mean as hell.
Mean as hell is what they said. But she's dead. So there's that. Okay, so he witnesses his dad kill his grandmother right in front of her. We don't know anything about his mom though.
No, we don't.
I'm curious about that myself.
Probably Avar Chris.
What? No, it's knock it off. It's not. Okay, so so then Asgard heads down to the people, the Nihil at this point. And and it's funny because the Nihil at this point, they're living in tents, right? They're not in they've got ships, but they're not like the Nihil that we see at the beginning of Light of the Jedi or even in the Rising Storm.
They're very much a ragtag crew they really are just marauders at this point with very little organization and kind of scraps. They're not real assertive. They don't really have any direction. And it's clearly rubbing them the wrong way because Pan is there, Kazav is there. It's only a 2 Tempest group right now, it looks like.
Yeah.
So Lorna D's not there yet. There's no one else in the mix yet.
But yeah, he comes down here to be with the people and he basically delivers the message that, hey, Shala's dead. I killed her. Too bad. So sad kind of thing.
Right.
And, this is where they're this is where they give Asgard the same kind of speech they gave Marchion Ro, or that they have the same feelings about Asgard as they did about Marchion Ro when Marchion Ro came back after his dad had been killed, right? They didn't trust him. They were going to try to manipulate him. That all kind of backfired on him, of course. But there is, so he basically pitches this idea that, okay, we're going to finally do what we've been talking about. We're going to ride the storm. We're going to get everybody rallied together. And he kind of makes this bet. Like, he bets the life of his child, Marchion Ro. What was the deal? I forget what the, basically was,
if all I want is you to listen to me.
Right, because they didn't want
all you have to do is if you kill Marchion, you get the Gaze Electric and you get whatever, you can take over the entirety of the Nihil. But if he wins and you yield, then you listen to me. He just wants their attention because he knows that there's no goodwill here.
And they don't respect him.
Well, yeah, I mean, and even with Shala, it sounds like they were kind of at their end, kind of at the end of their wits on that one too. So, but they weren't going to necessarily go and strike against her, but we don't really get any context on that one yet.
Yeah. But it says he says if you lose, it will be. Oh, so then he tells Ro, like Marchion Ro, he tells his son this that I've got.
Oh yeah, Dad of the Year moment here, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Father of the Year. Go ahead.
Yeah, if we lose, just remember it's your fault.
And our family's hopes will die with you.
Yep.
And then what does he say? He says, "I know, Father." Like, it's just like horrible, right? That he would even put this up. So not only is he risking his child's life first and foremost,
when it's his paths and it's his responsibility. But again, this goes back to Shala. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we kind of missed a part.
Yeah.
one of the things that Soule told Asgard that you have to do, again, she thinks so highly of Marchion, right? She says that it's Asgard's responsibility to really sharpen Marchion even more and make him even fiercer and tougher, because what is going to be required to take on the Jedi and the Republic is more than what any of them have ever prepared for or anything that they're ready for at this point. And again, I think that contributes more to Asgard's feeling slighted that, okay, well, I'm not good enough, but now I've got to train my kid to do it, even though he's working really hard to do all this stuff. But so that's kind of the context on that front as to why there's so much pressure on him in the first place, but also how Marchion already knows all of this pressure is already inherently there for him.
Yeah. And what I was alluding to earlier,
the guinea pig.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What I was alluding to earlier was, he's got this plan. She's saying Mari Santeca is not ready. And he's like, well, let's just put it to a test. And let me use my child as the experiment here, as part of the experiment to prove that she's right. And if it's not, then well, I'll lose my son. No big deal.
Again, I think it probably is no big deal to him.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. So he, of course, Marchion Rose kind of like, okay, Dad, thanks, whatever, gets in the vehicle. And so they end up having this battle where, in the image that I've got, this ship here with the green around him is Marchion Rose ship that he's flying. And then he's battling all of the Nihil and their ships, which don't look anything like the ships that we see. They're not the piecemeal ships that we come to know in
these are
like the Jedi.
Fairly slick, yeah. And again, the green is supposed to recognize or be representative of the path, the path engine, yeah.
So yeah, he's going around.
Yeah,
he's paired up with Mari Santeca. Mari Santeca is feeding him these paths for him to kind of maneuverate, and he's almost like this ghost. He's just disappearing left and right, and they can't keep up with where he's at, and so he's just picking these guys off left and right. And of course, Pan and Kazav are like, holy bananas, this is crap. Let's forget it. Let's just surrender. And so they do. And Ro doesn't stop. Like, this sick kid keeps on going.
Marchion doesn't stop.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Marchion Ro doesn't stop. He wants to keep killing these people. I don't know if he's having fun or he's sick or it's just a kid thing, but
totally emotionless though the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. You can even see it in that top left image there and the one next to it where he's just poker face, just stoic. He's lifeless is really what if you come down to it. And so Asgard tries to stop him. And so he doubles down on this. He basically tells him, look, if you don't stop, then I, quote, have no son at all. Like, meaning, I don't know, he's going to kill him or disown him. And he finally stops for that, which just speaks to...
Well, he's going to cut the paths off. And then he threatens him. He says, you're not going to last. And what's going to happen then if I turn the paths off, they're all going to wreck you.
Yeah.
And then I have no kid.
Yeah.
And that it finally gets through to Marchion a bit there.
Yeah. The part of it that for me that again is perverse is him saying that he's not going to have a son. Like what actually made him stop was this belief that his dad, there's a part of them probably believes that, okay, Dad's not going to be around or Dad's going to have me killed. And so that's why he stops. Like, and that's just, I don't know. It's disturbing to think that a kid would do that because they would, right? You hear about kids that are abused in these horrible relationships, and they still love their parents because that is their dad. You know what I mean? And you got somebody as crazy as this doing to him, and he's just kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll stop. I don't, there's a part of me that thinks he does love him, right? I guess is where I'm going with that.
We're not really given that impression.
No, we're not. I'm speaking from my own personal experience and wisdom of what kids go through and what they, the pain and suffering they go through for parents that are just fully neglect them at all times. It just, you can't separate those two, in my opinion. That's just.
Yeah. With Marchion, it seems like this is probably since day one, since he was born, right? He's been honed in a certain way, and perhaps Asgard has too, right? I mean, presumably his upbringing has been something akin to what Marchion has had as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've all had a singular goal of really looking out for their own interests, but also what to do about the Republic and the Jedi.
Yep.
And unfortunately, these are the types of things they've decided to go about doing.
So here he is, victorious. Asgard saying, good boy.
Yeah, that's even just more demeaning.
Yep. So he wins. He ends up getting, I guess he rallies the troops. There's a big hurrah here where they're all saying ride the storm, and you can see Kazev on the left-hand side.
You can see Lorna in this too.
Is she?
She's the one saying, we are your Tempest runners. So this is clearly later on.
Yeah. Well, that's probably true because she did come in as a lower rank at first. She didn't come in, obviously, as a Tempest runner out of the gate.
Right.
But yeah, and then there's Panitia back there who doesn't have his fancy clothing that he wears. So, they're kind of slumming it right now. And then you've got Ro wearing his, helmet Asgar wearing the helmet that Marchion would wear a little bit later and at times wears. But yeah, that's kind of how it ends here. They do talk about, caretakers again and talking about how that Shala was really a caretaker in the sense that she was able to bring them together so that they could then go on to be something mightier. So at least in that regard, I guess he's given her some kind of acknowledgement. I don't know.
Yeah, in the most backhanded of ways.
Yeah.
Very much an insult.
And then he also says he's a man with a vision, and this comes up a little bit later. It's important in just a little bit here why that term vision is important. Let's get to the next part of here. So this is scene 3, which is the last scene in the first issue, and it's called The Kill, in which through the power of the paths, the Nihil have become much more than they were. An eye closes and an eye opens. And boy, does it ever. So this opens up. It opens up with this panel right here. And what I'm showing here is Asgar laying there dead. He's got his gray blood pouring out of him. And this is right out of the scene from The Rising Storm where
not quite dead, but pretty close.
Yeah. And I think the jury's still out on who actually killed him, or was that confirmed in Tempest Runner now? I think it was confirmed.
I got to be honest, though. This really calls that into question.
Yeah. Do you think so?
I think so, because, I mean, again, what we have is, it's the way these scenes are cut, I guess. I should probably back up on some of that assertion, but the way that they're cut, it makes it seem like everybody else, because we thought it was Kazev for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Kazev seems like he's just kind of off on his own, hanging out in this, in these scenes. Whereas, Marchion is right there. And I got to be honest, I kind of figured Marchion just shoved a boot to his face, kind of like he did with Pan.
Oh, yeah. I want to say in man, it wasn't that long ago we talked about it, but
it's been a while.
I thought in Tempest Runner, Panitia or Pan either didn't directly or he just alluded to the fact that he was behind it. Whether he was the only one, I don't know, but in my head, that's where I had it. But nonetheless, the fact is you've got him standing here, he's bleeding to death and he's pleading for his son's help. And his son just stares at him like lifelessly stares at him like, I'm not helping you. It's like, this sucks, but I'm kind of enjoying this kind of thing. And, once his father passes, he waits. I mean, he literally waits until his dad just bleeds out. And I think, what was the line he says here? I didn't write that down, but he says something to his son, like, you're just going to stand there and look at me and that's good. Yeah. Good boy kind of thing. Like that's what I would expect. But then once his dad finally bleeds out to death, he goes up and picks his helmet up and just very nonchalantly walks away. Like, okay, that guy's dead.
Yep.
And then he comes up, he then walks over to Kazev and Lorna D. They're sitting there celebrating in the Great Hall, and basically says, hey, Dad's dead. And he talks about having a vision.
Yeah, we get the same line from Kazev that he gave to Asgar. Same with your Granny.
Yep.
He had good ideas, good contacts.
Yep.
But they called him back like, hey, do you think you have vision? Your dad had vision. Do you think you do too? And I believe I do, is what he responds with. But again, that's kind of a very different context of it, I think, than what Asgar probably meant it as.
Yeah, and I
think Marchion's got a very fine-tuned, again, he's the tip of the blade. Yeah, so I think he has a very fine-tuned idea of what his vision is, where Asgar was a bit, I don't know, seemed like he wasn't making enough progress, or it wasn't at least clear enough in his own mind.
I thought I took a picture of his vision, and I guess I didn't. I'll kind of just hold up this real quick so you can see it here. But his vision, what's that?
Let me feature you on the main screen.
Oh, yeah. So Marchion's vision, like right after he says I do, we cut over to, I guess, what he's thinking about as his vision. And for anybody that's just listening to the audio, it's essentially what looks
spread,
like
of
Jedi dead, and they're kind of in a tempest swirl of sorts.
It's all red, just like the other visions of the death visions he's had of other people.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's he definitely has a vision. Like he wants to go and eliminate fulfill the prophecy, the great destiny, right? Which is to take out the Republic and take out the Jedi. And why are you still featuring me?
I'm not as proficient as this as you are.
But yeah, that's his vision. So now he doesn't share that. I think this is inside the mind of Marchion Ro that we see this, right? He doesn't say anything about it. And that kind of ends how that ends the. Is that the last thing? Yeah, that ends that.
Is the first issue. Yeah.
So let's get into the second issue.
This one just jumps right in too.
It does.
No credits or anything. No prologue. No text scroll. Nothing.
Well, I thought that was interesting because we had an Act 1 in the first book, and I was expecting to see Act 2, and we don't. And I wonder if that was that intentional, or I don't know. It's just bizarre that we had. Why would you say Act 1 in issue 1, and then you don't reference another act unless there is Act 2 is later down the road? I don't know.
It might be something else later on. Yeah.
But I found that very, very bizarre. And
we're meted by a familiar Jedi. If you read the High Republic Adventures comic books, which is usually the younger readers, you recognize his character immediately.
Yeah,
I was shocked to see him. I was like, no way.
Yeah, this poor dude. So this is Master Obertuk. Yeah. He shows, like you said, he showed up, and he actually was pretty cool in the High Adventures comic. Like he was taking a nap.
He fell asleep. He went into hibernation before a thing with the Hutts. Yeah.
But he woke up at the right last minute and kind of saved the day, helped save the day. But yeah, you thought he's a weird character. He's got like 3, I forget the race. I don't even know if this is a race that's been in Star Wars before, but he's got like 3 eyes. He's got like a mushroom bulbous head kind of thing going on there. And then he's got 2 arms and a bunch of tentacles. Really, it's kind of skinny and frail looking. But what's cool is he can wield multiple lightsabers.
Yeah, he actually fashions the lightsabers after students he's had over the centuries or whatever. Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting take on what a Jedi Master would do. And again, it kind of speaks to the connection that masters have with their apprentices at this in this stage.
Mm-hmm. Which is so funny because, like, again, they give these characters, all these character traits and backgrounds and things like that. And well, hate to spoil it, but this dude's gonna die here in just a little bit.
Oh,
yep. Now, this issue clearly takes place after the events of the Fallen Star. Like at this point,
right?
We are like this picks up right as Starlight Beacon is going down. Like it's exploding. There's fire, whatever smoke, and it's heading into the.
And we have no idea how he came into custody, though, either.
Yeah, I know. Because I meant to go back and read. Did you go back and read High Adventures?
I thumbed through them and tried to find it. I didn't see how he would have been captured. But I mean, he's got him naked. I mean, he's really got him stripped down here, and he's clearly he's struggling to touch the Force. He's really disoriented. He has no idea really what's going on with it, and he's kind of in disbelief. And I think Loden was in a bit of that too. Was you can keep doing what you want to do, but you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what was it? He was saying something about he couldn't fear or he couldn't feel the Force.
Yeah, when he reached out, he couldn't. It wasn't calling back out. It wasn't reaching back out to him. So his ability to touch it, it was, again, that's the fear. So you just know there's a nameless somewhere nearby, close enough nearby to where it's already interfering with that ability. And this is who Marchion's talking to, right? You're afraid of me. And now we kind of have a better idea of who he's talking to and why that fear is there.
Yeah, right. To reference the opening page earlier on, we talked about the very first couple pages of that first issue. This is who he's speaking to. And you can see the shackles there on the cover. You can see Marchion in all the pictures that they've shown him. He's sitting in a throne. He's holding on to a chain of some sort. So he's just got him here like as his pet.
I always thought the chain was going to be attached to a leveler or something like that, not a Jedi.
The other thing that we learn here, which is a tie back to Midnight Horizon, is that he mentions to Obertuck that there is a part 2 to this plan.
Yeah.
And the part 2 of the plan is not right after the Starlight Beacon is allegedly it's supposed to crash into the planet, and thanks to Soule and Geos, it doesn't, but it crashes into water instead of into land. It after that was supposed to happen, there was a second wave of Nihil who were going to steal some long beams and some other Republic cruisers, and they were going to head out to the planet of starts with an H.
Hiram.
Yeah,
well, they were going to go clean up the trash, basically, of whatever was left. All of the people who were actually able to go and try to help Starlight Beacon, they were going to go out there and
pick them off.
Pick off everybody else, and thinking that these were ships coming in to help.
Yes,
they were going to come in there and annihilate the planet and anybody that's trying to get off of it and everything else. They were going to really rub salt in the wound, basically.
And these were all, again, Carillion cruisers. So again, that plan is like the main.
That's what's going on at Mid Horizon.
From beginning to end, that's kind of what they're leading up to. So again, I'm sorry if we're spoiling that one. It's been out for a while though. But I love the tie back. I love the tie in, and it's such a dramatic moment. And I don't want to go on about Midnight Horizon because it's an amazing book. But
it's really, I think it's important, and it's difficult to do it without giving too many spoilers about Midnight Horizon. But Marchion Rowe has every bit of confidence that is happening.
Oh yeah.
He mentions it not once but twice in this issue, with it that any minute now this is going to happen, and we're going to go and clean up, and we're really going to give them it's that 1-2 punch. You've delivered the knockout blow, and they're on the ground, and now you're just going to go pummel them.
Yep,
and that's the idea behind it, right?
But they were not expecting somebody to show up, but we won't spoil that. Lauren knows. Okay, so and then the last thing that before we move into the first scene on issue 2 is Obertuck is like forced to watch this holo of Starlight Beacon, and it's starting to fall, and he can see it, and he's just completely shocked and devastated that this is even happening, right? I don't remember if it's here or later where he's talking about he doesn't believe it, and he's like, what would you believe? That I went through the trouble of making a holo to fool you, or the fact that this is actually happening?
Right.
So, all right. So we'll get into scene 1, the wreckage, and it says, in which a group of powerful people realize the depth of their failure and questions are asked. So we jump to Coruscant, and here we've got Lena.
We kind of missed a part, though.
Did we? What did we miss?
Right. So Marchion Rowe says that the Republic is going to focus so much on the how, they should be focusing on the who. And what do we do? So when we jump into this, we get into the political arena in Lena So's office. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
They want to. They ask about who it is, but they're like, no, forget that. We need to figure out how they're doing all of this.
Right.
And you can see that natural inclination to want to do that, right? How are they infiltrating Starlight? How are they doing this? And how are they doing? How did Marchion Rowe, this supposed eye of the Nihil, not Lorna D, continue to escape our, some of the best intelligence we have in all of the galaxy?
Yep.
And so they keep focusing, just like Marchion thought. They're going to focus on the how. But we find that Lena So is the only one who's like, no, this is definitely Marchion Rowe, and we need to be focusing on this guy. But again, she's kind of outnumbered in this regard.
Well, and she's starting to lose faith as well, I think, too, right? I mean,
I think she's losing hope too, especially as these pages kind of go on about what's going on with the Jedi and the Jedi's decisions. And we'll touch on that in a second, but yeah, I mean, you can see the despair, and losing Stellan Geos is a huge personal hit to her, because of what they experienced together in Rising Storm.
Yep. No, thanks for mentioning that. I completely missed that part of it. So we get to so they're all in this big debate now about what needs to happen, right? This, again, post Fallen Star at this point. And so you've got Lena So here. You've got some representative from the Outer Rim. I don't think they've ever mentioned him yet.
I don't think so.
And then you've got Opal Rancisis and Master Jedi Vec, or what's his name?
I don't think that's Rancisis.
Opal Rancisis, the little
the guy with the
guy?
wildly beard. I thought
this guy here.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was looking at the other guy. Sorry about that.
No, I'm trying to think of what's this guy's name. They mentioned him. Oh, Bob Saget. I'm sorry. I thought I had it written down. Maybe I didn't. But
I will find it while you continue.
Okay, cool. He's got like Vex or Hex or Rex or something like that.
Oh, Pray Viter is his last name.
Well, I was way off. Samsonite. That was like way off.
Yeah, I think Praetor Viter or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. Viter. He's the German Jedi. But there is... they're all kind of talking about what happened and like what are our next plan, like what do we do now, kind of thing, right? They're kind of reeling at this point. They're back on their heels. They make a comment about how the Nihil were able to get into one of the most heavily defended space stations, and I was like, there's net baloney. I mean, that was too easy for them to get into. I don't believe that for a second. You're starting to sound like a separatist. She also mentions, sorry, these are the weird things that creep in my head. They also mentioned that it's been a year now, right? So since the Nihil showed up, so we're a year into the storyline, I guess, and they're just now discovering who the real leader of the Nihil is, being Marchion Ro. And for them, this is like a huge revelation. Like, man, they've really gone off. I mean, they had Avar Kriss, Light of the Galaxy, out there chasing ghosts, literally. I mean, she was after the wrong person. This guy really kind of pulled the wool over their eyes, right?
Right.
No, yeah, here it is. Per Grandmaster Veter. And they also make mention that many members of the Jedi Order perished in Starlight Beacon. So we've talked about the ones that died when we did our first part of the Fallen Star, and we have more parts coming. But it does sound like there were a lot of other Jedi that may have died in Starlight Beacon that we're just not aware of, either because they were on the space station when it went down, or there were some groups that came to help. They could have docked and went down with the ship at that point. And that reference could be the fact that there are a lot of Jedi now that aren't there, and so where does that put them? Right, their forces have dwindled now because they've lost so many by putting all their eggs literally in one basket up there that went down in a blaze of glory into the ocean.
Right.
They do confirm Nibasik and Stellan were two that died. There's a cool shot of, I don't know if it's cool, it's kind of sad, really, but there's a cool shot where Lena So is kind of like looking down, like you said, she's thinking, my goodness, this is the man that saved me, and now he's dead. And, what does that mean for us now? The hope is starting to kind of fade away here.
Right.
And they pick up on Ro's speech. He gives a speech at the end of the Fallen Star where he's talking about this galaxy now belongs to him, like it's his galaxy.
Right.
And I didn't pick up on this when I read the book, but I'm gonna take Lena So's word for it, I think, because she's the one that calls out that he pauses right before he says this galaxy is his. He was almost going to say this galaxy is ours, meaning that, like, Jonesy, he's a good student. He's pulling the book now to pull the line to see if that was how it.
Yeah, they do actually say it, because I remember in the audiobook.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so she picks up on that as well, that he corrected himself and said this is his, which kind of speaks to his I guess I wouldn't say ego, but certainly what are his plans? Like, this is he wants to be the main person. There's what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a vanity about him, right? In some regard.
I mean, he is taking ultimate accountability, and he wants he is ready to unveil himself, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, Helena, so this is how the book reads it here, just the last paragraph and a half or so. The Nihil have proven our power, and we will use that power however we choose. This is Marchion Ro. This galaxy, and this is where it pauses. He says, he knew he should say is ours. He should reference all the Nihil in this statement, unify them in his ultimate statement of purpose. Instead, Ro said that what he truly believed, this galaxy is mine.
This galaxy is mine.
Right. Okay. So says the good word of Kevin Scott.
The good word. The good book that you the put
good
down
book,
now.
yeah.
Okay, and so at this point they put a ransom out or I guess they put a bounty essentially for Ro's head.
Yeah, it's a rah-rah moment, man. They're all like, we're going to put even his own family's going to sell him out. They're like, wow.
Yeah.
And then Lena, so yeah, the way that the art is written here, she's like all pointing and she's all very
she like takes
commanding.
Command.
Yeah, no, I like that pose. She's like, it's great.
It says, I'll offer so many credits, even his own family will betray him. Probably didn't take a lot.
No, he's already killed him.
Yeah. And then here's the big kicker in the butt, in the galaxy's butt.
Yeah, they did not see this coming.
the Jedi are like, hey, we're gonna just sit this one out, guys.
Yeah. By the way, we're calling everybody back in.
Yeah. So they've literally now called all of the Jedi back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant.
Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious, right? You can read the room, and it's obvious that everybody's perception
all
is
the wind got sucked out of it.
Yeah, because you've got the Jedi who are supposed to be the guardians of peace in the galaxy, and they're essentially retreating. And these guys, Veter and Rancissus, take offense to this. They're like, "No, we're not retreating. We're just being prudent, right? We're not afraid," is what they say, because it looks like they're scared.
Yeah, they don't understand the depth of what they're up against. And I think, and to be fair, though, the rest of the Republic has zero idea. Lena So and them have no idea exactly what's going on either. And it hasn't been totally clear that Nevaseek and some of the others suffered the same fate that Loden Greatstorm did. And they finally start to unveil kind of what that experience is, that it's not the experience, but that it seems to be ultimately only Force users that do it. The Jedi are completely powerless against it. They have no information. So for them to leap into action blindly is dumb, basically, is what they're trying to tell this senator who's, if the galaxy are banning us, what hope do we have? And they're like, well, we're trying to figure this thing out. But he says we need time to read more research. And they're like, well, what about Emmerich Kaftor from Trail of Shadows?
Which is commendable. I mean, they did discover something. I mean, they know it attacks Jedi. We know that Ro has them now. They're not sure how many there are, right. But they really, at the end of the day, still don't know a whole lot about these guys.
Yeah, they really don't.
But so it's Rancissus who says the Nihil have a weapon. We do not know what its nature. We do not know its nature, but we know it targets Jedi, and we are uniquely susceptible to it. So they're saying, look, we're going to go regroup and try to rethink this, because we are obviously not effective here. We're just getting killed left and right by this thing. We don't know how many are out
in
there.
a library now, huh?
Yeah, right. He did good. I'm so proud of my little boy Reith there for Midnight Horizon. Okay, and I think that's probably the end of that one. Yeah, so it ends with this kind of big cliffhanger moment, or not cliffhanger, but shocking moment that the Jedi are all being called back. So again, that's just, if you think about it, right? Every Jedi that's out there, and they've been going through the effort of trying to traverse the Outer Rim and be available and all that, they're pulling everybody that's left back. And I just wonder what that's going to do at this point when we get into phase 3, I guess.
Yeah, and by the time we get to the end of this book, you can see what the ramifications of that are going to start to be pretty quickly.
Yep. Okay, scene 2 is called The Hunt, in which the source of Marchion Ro's weapon against the Jedi is revealed, while its name and nature remain obscured. So you've got Marchion Ro here in this left panel here, and he's essentially called together 7 of his most devout Nihil type people.
7 of the most brainless, loyal ones that will follow him without any kind of question.
Yeah.
Which is how he sees them, right? We saw that in Fallen Star.
Oh, yeah.
It's how he views these folks. The only ones he can trust are the ones that are completely stupefied in his presence.
Yep. They're all fanatics.
Yep.
I think he gives them a name of Shi'ar, which was there an apostrophe in that? Because I wrote Sheer.
I think there's 2 uses. So they called it the Sheer. So when the Great Storm came on Evron, they called it the Sheer. Now, later in the book, I'm pretty sure they called Marchion the Shi'ar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was the group. I'm pretty sure it was Marchion was the Shi'ar. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'm pretty sure they referenced the Shi'ar, and I think it was really supposed to be directed at him. He is the Sheer. He's wielding the Sheer, I guess, if you will. Yeah. But he is the Shi'ar, is the owner of the Sheer, the originator of it, or something to that effect. That's how my little brain reconciled it.
Okay. Yeah, something to that.
You're like, okay, that's dumb, but yeah, sure.
No. I honestly, it was kind of, I wasn't sure. Like I was reading it right. Like at one point, it felt like they were talking about Marchion Ro. And then I felt like they were talking about these guys. And the point is, they're using a clever name here to kind of
they really slip it in there
what they're
too.
going to do.
Yeah, they slip it in there. Yeah.
So, okay, so he brands them as the Storm.
Literally,
you can see their little shirts here. They've got the 3 lightning bolts that would pop up later on the ships of all of the Nihil. And they're going to travel to a planet and they're going to get a great weapon. That's kind of all they know. So they they're like, sure, we'll do whatever you say.
Well, when he brands them, he branded them with the Nihil logo on their foreheads.
Yeah, I've got a good picture of one later.
Yeah, to unify them in their pain. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that one sees it. But yeah, basically he calls them all together and he unifies them in their pain. And that's how you guarantee loyalty and that they're in it. Because if they've already gone through that, then they will continue to go through whatever else you put them through.
Yeah. And by branding, we like literally mean they show a hot iron brand with the Nihil Tempest symbol.
Right, yeah, with the swirling storm, yeah.
Yep. Like if you've ever been to Bonanza and they used to brand the steak before they served it to you?
Yeah. Or every commercial, or if you're just live in Texas.
Yeah, or my neighbor, whatever. Right. Okay. And one of these looks like an orc, but more on that later. Okay, so they head to this
planet. One of them looks like the Grand Inquisitor.
Does he really? Let me
kidding.
See.
I think he's immune. A moon. Is that what they're called?
A mun?
Mun, there we go.
Yeah. Mun. Okay, so they head to this planet, and it's a really cool planet, by the way, which
this is pretty wild, yeah.
And they're kind of flanked by some other ships as well. Like there's some little, like, I don't know, he basically gets a bunch of little co-pilot ships to escort them.
Yeah, so they basically get a bunch of newbie strike recruits to fly in there to be the cannon fodder.
Yeah, the meat shield
against the planet. Yeah, what's really so yeah, and the way that they described this planet was that the planet, some might call it a defense system. So it was like this big cloud and a big storm around it all, but really they describe it as it's an immunity system, which was a really interesting way of describing that. And the Nihil were the infection.
Yeah,
and so it purged the infection as they go through. And this is why he needed all of this, is that you have to make the sacrifice if you want to get to the riches that, that await you. And so all of these poor blind fools just go into their demise without even realizing it.
Yeah, they're almost like a virus that's trying to invade a host of some sort. And that host starts pushing back. And then so what we see, as soon as they come in, there's like this, electrical storms, the planet is pushing back and it starts just tearing. I've got some images up here of, these poor Nihil ships that are just taking the brunt of that, while the other guys kind of flying behind them and are able to kind of land on the main planet here. But yeah, so you can see the planet here, very colorful. Looks like something out of like a, I don't know, Dr. Seuss or the Lorax.
Yeah, it's like a Dr. Seuss version of Felucia.
There you go. Yeah. Is that a Pegasus? No.
There's like a weird looking Pegasus unicorn and a antelope and a dinosaur. Riding it.
Oh yeah, it does look like Boba Fett from the
cartoon. Yeah,
the cartoon. Good call. We're really making all this up, but it
really does look like Dr. Seuss though.
Yeah, but there you go. There's the one that does look like the Grand Inquisitor there in the middle. So yeah, these 7 Nihil come here and they are here to get this great weapon, and they're kind of asking like, okay, this is cool, but where's the weapon at? And this is where Marchion Rowe decides, okay, well, we've got to call it, right?
Right.
This whole planet's going to react, so get ready for this. We need to call the Nameless.
And so he pulls his rod out, yeah.
Pulls out the rod, puts the purple stone in there. This is the same rod we've seen in the comics, if you've been following those. I'm trying to remember, did they mention the rod in the Rising Storm?
They did.
At the very end.
But again, it was very difficult to understand. I think this is what I remember saying about it, was I had a really difficult time of picturing how they described it and trying to reconcile that with what we had seen in some of the comics, because it was a bit obscure for a long time. But now we've seen it more clearly in a couple of pages now, which is a little less impressive. It looks more like a scepter of sorts, guys, with a crystal you can kind of slip in the top, like it has like a setting, like you would like a giant ring. But it's really kind of like a scepter.
Yeah, it looks like something Evelyn would carry.
Oh, Evil Lyn?
Yeah.
Yeah, from He-Man.
Oh, please check out Masters of the, or what's the name of that show we used to have?
Dead.
Oh, it's dead? Okay.
Manny Faces of the Masters.
Manny Faces of the Universe, yeah. I still got the shirt.
I do too. I still want to do it. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Well, it's a purple, a really pretty purple scepter of sorts.
Yeah.
So he puts it in there, decides he's going to call, and he tells everybody, get ready, because whatever's going to happen, the planet is going to react, and it does. The planet fights back. Like, it starts sending like hordes of these creatures. I mean, I don't know if it's the same creature.
It is. Yeah, we don't know what it is. They look like almost like raising the dead of sorts.
Yep.
It's a very trippy kind of piece of art.
Yeah, and there's like, I didn't get all the panels on here. I'm showing you just one of them, but they're all very cool. And it looks like there's just waves upon waves of these things coming, and they're fending them off, fighting them off, killing them or whatever. And they're just biding their time, waiting for the Nameless to eventually show up, which they do, which I'm showing right here. He says, "Our prizes heard my call. They're coming." And I don't think I've got. There's another shot where you can kind of see them come in from the top of the panel or whatever. But nonetheless, the Nameless show up. There's several of them, it looks like, at least 3 or 4 of them that I could tell. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Nope. That's it.
So yeah, I mean, I've got questions about why this crystal made the planet react the way it did, right? The minute he attached it, and whether we're going to get that whole backstory or not. I would guess this gem is from this planet, though. That would be.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah. And I think this is one of those, you talk about balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have something particularly strong that you want to keep away from, it has a certain amount of abilities, but you kind of want to protect the rest of the galaxy or some other body from getting to that because of the damage that it can do. What do you have? You have really strong natural defenses as a result, right? That can keep you from those prizes. I mean, think about like it, even in more modernized terms of like booby traps to keep your treasure safe. It's the same type of thing. To get to the treasure, you have to go through peril, but these are natural phenomenon that are saying, no, this planet really needs to protect all the well, I'm going to call it riches because that's what they call it here, but what it has in store, what it can provide is almost unnatural, and those should not have it. But again, this goes back again for centuries and for generations rather on Marchion Rowe's family, that this is all from the stories of his family have been passing down through the lineage, that he doesn't even sure the planet existed, but it does. So if the planet exists, then some of these other things must be true then, or there's got to be a root truth in there somewhere.
Yep.
And so again, he's kind of pushing it further and further, saying that, okay, there's got to be truth to some of this stuff. And this kind of goes to kind of what we saw in Rise from Kufa again, and they're in the cave. But yeah, that's how I see it though, is very, the planet has to protect what it has because it's not really supposed to get out.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it adds up, especially with some of the panels we're not showing here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense if you guys go read this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, or just see it too.
Yep.
So
we can read word now.
Yeah,
it was very educated base.
Did I get the full picture? A little bit. Oh, look at that.
That's later in the tube. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's still not great. Why do they screw these things so
I don't
much?
know. I mean, it's better than we've ever gotten. Like, I thought we were just getting this image where we just see eyes, and that was
High Republic 15 officially, I think, is the first full image of a Nameless.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even still, it's still pretty liberal with first full view of a Nameless.
Yeah. So we learned a couple of things about the Nameless here at this point, and you can call it the Leveler, you can call it the Nameless, whatever you want. It's the same thing. And by the way, you mentioned it. The quote from Master and Apprentice: "Only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless." As though something happened to the Nameless, right? There's a sin that's been committed against them, and the only way to cleanse that, and I don't. Maybe that's a show topic later on down the road, right? But I still am trying to wrap my head around what that could possibly mean.
Well, and I still think it's got duplicate meanings because I'm still not convinced that the Nameless aren't Marchion Rowe's people too, or Marchion Rowe's family.
Mm-hmm.
And Nameless being that their species has been more or less wiped away from existence. They're not in any kind of records. The Rowe family is clearly a bunch of single individuals that kill each other down the line.
Yeah.
So and there's clearly a history there as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if, like everything else that we've experienced so far, that it was more than one thing. It was both the Rowe family specifically as well as these creatures. Yeah.
Yep. But the other things that we learned about the Nameless, aka the Levelers, is that he confirms they make the Jedi afraid. It makes them weak, and then they die. He also says
that makes them dead.
Makes them very dead. He also says the Jedi know about these, and they've known about them for very long, but they've suppressed that knowledge.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking, okay, wait a second. Now
it's all making sense for you now.
Yeah. Well, and it's, and the first person I'm looking at is like Yoda, because we saw him buck out earlier on.
High Republic Adventures, right?
Yep.
In High Republic Adventures, he finds a crate and there's a purple glow, and he's like, interesting. And that was the very first kind of idea that we had, that Yoda recognized something that hadn't been seen in a very long time. And then we get stories like this, and then he ducks out, like you were saying. But then we get stories like this where it's like, well, the Jedi have intentionally purged all, they don't talk about it, and they bury it. This is like the Bogan collection of sorts, right?
Right.
It's just this thing that they want to bury deep down that they don't want to acknowledge because they're so afraid that it'll get out, to the point where it's just lost over time.
Yep.
And I think that's exactly, it's all leading up exactly what you had pointed out for us the last few months now, ever since this little breadcrumb trail we started to get, was where we're going back in the past and we're going to get all of this.
Yeah.
I
think that's exactly where we're going.
I'm getting more excited about Quest of the Jedi Phase 2 than I was previously. I was a little bit, had some trepidation about it.
Yeah, me too. I was a little bummed.
Yep. Yeah, I was too. Especially we get to the pinnacle of what we're trying to do, this real excitement. But now, now that this is a type of story we're going to get, or at least a piece of it, it's starting to get me pretty excited.
Yeah. So I think that begs the question of why, which I think they'll explore in the next phase here. Is why would they suppress this? Why would they hide it? The other, and this is in Yoda's lifetime, so that dude's got some questions to be asked.
Explaining to do.
Yep. And then we also know that Rose's family used these creatures against the Jedi years ago. So this isn't the first time the Rose have done this.
Right, and the way they make it sound, the Jedi didn't have an answer for it then.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how that actually ended then.
Because the Jedi are still around.
Yeah, exactly. And so that kind of also tells you, though, that the Rose are usually kind of full of it. Right? Usually the people on the losing side of history are a little bit full of it too, with, I don't want to say that because that's not always true, but you get my point though, right? That they make it up to be this big thing, but then also you look at them like, well, why are you, there's one of you. there's thousands of Jedi out there. So did you really make that big of a difference, or are you just all pomp and circumstance?
Right. And then you get this poor sap guy, right? He's like the voice of reason here. He's like, look, man.
I love you and all, but
yeah. But can you just tell us why? Like, I get it. You're cool and we're going through all this and I love you to death, but can't you just tell us why you're doing this? And he takes offense to this. Like, I can't remember.
Even answer him.
Yeah. And I think he is like, he makes a comment about, I don't know. I can't remember the context of, like, it was almost like you could kill him right now for even questioning the why, right? But he does.
Yeah, he went through all these. He didn't know what to do in his head. He was like, I could kill him. I could tell him the truth, but he doesn't know the truth. And yeah, Marchion Rosto trying to kind of figure it all out too.
Yeah, he says it's not about power, and this is what he's saying in his head. It's not about power. It's not about wealth. It's not about revenge. And he says the truth is deeper and simpler, which, okay, I got to think about that a little bit more, honestly. But power, wealth, and revenge are not in the equation unless he's lying.
Well, I think he also comes back later and says it is all of those things at the same time.
Well, and then, so I don't know if I believe him though.
In any given moment, it's all of those things.
Okay,
I think because it has to be, revenge is part of it because he's brought it up multiple times. What his family or what his people, whatever attachment he has to any of that. Clearly, it's something there, and I think they do talk about that. It was a little of everything, but there's one core component that he comes back to that says, this is really why I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's in the next scene here.
Right.
When he says it's not about revenge, I mean, there's always that thing of, oh, it's not revenge. It's justice, It's
just BS is what it is.
So maybe in his mind, it's not revenge and it is justice. I don't know. Well, anyways, I don't know if to believe him or not at this point, but he tells his poor sap, I am all that matters. And I do not like people who do not matter telling me what to do. Right. Like, I don't have to answer to you, But as we find out in the next scene, scene 3, the triumph, he says, it says the triumph in which no one tells Marchion Ro what to do.
Right.
It starts, and he's going to make this guy, use this guy as an example, or use what he says a little bit later here. But we're back in no space. We're in the Great Hall of the Nihil. Ro's kind of having this victory party because Starlight Beacon's in the dumps there. He says, hey, a lot of the Jedi dead. The Republic couldn't stop us. And
this Corellian fleet's coming too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is like the perfect day for him. And, and then the icing on cake for him, the twist of the knife, is the fact that he used the Starlight Beacon's frequency that was supposed to be this frequency of hope in the galaxy, in the dark area of the galaxy, as his mechanism, as his forum to give his victory speech as well, right? So he's just gloating about how wonderful all of this has kind of come together. And then he says, but this guy over here, he pulls up the orc dude and asks why, and says, so I'm going to give you an answer. Now, again, I don't know if I believe any of this at this point, because of what he was saying internally in his head about it's not this, it's not that, I don't have to answer, right? The truth is simpler and all that. So it's really hard for me personally to kind of take him at face value here, but he says it's because they need two things. He wanted to prove, the reason why they're doing all this is he wants to prove that the Republic and the Jedi power are meaningless against the Nihil, right? And he uses the fall of Starlight Beacon as an example. Do you buy that one? It sounds like there is some truth in that, given the way his actions and words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And here's the one that I was like, I don't know about that.
So this is the one I take at face value.
Okay. Yeah.
Clearly,
so
actually,
the second one, he says, a place to live free of the Republic and outside of the Jedi reach. And I would say, yeah, no, you're right. There is.
Well, okay, I take it back. Not at face value. There's still more to it. That's a byproduct of it. Yeah, that's a side effect.
Right.
Right.
I think what you're saying is he wouldn't go through with something that we're going to talk about here in just a second if he didn't believe this. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense that he would. Okay.
Right.
But he's
mentions not setting up a halfway house for anybody. Like that.
No, he's got bigger plans here. But he's got Chancey Yarrow's gravity well. So this was brought up in Out of the Shadows. I think it was first mentioned.
Yeah.
And then it came up again.
It really got lost in that book, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it got brought up again a little bit later. I think it was in Fallen Star. I think someone mentioned it. I don't remember now.
I believe so.
But the tech is in his hands, right? He's got that. And so he wanted to create this place where the Nihil could leave. He wants to have their freedom, right? Outside of the reach of the Republic and outside of the reach of the Jedi. He doesn't want it seems very, I don't know, Texan. He basically wants to secede from the Union, right? Is what he's saying. And so
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely kind of right.
So he creates, because it happens all the time. You see you drive around, there's trucks everywhere in Texas that say, secede, and we don't.
The nationalists, the Texas nationalists.
Let me take it. Which is fine. I don't have a problem. It's to each their own. But this is a new piece here. So in the image that we're showing right now, it almost looks like there used to be a toy. There was a ball with had all like little suction cups all over it, and you would throw it, and it would stick to the wall, and it would roll down the wall. Right. It looks like that, but it's floating. It's got electricity all over it, and it's called a storm seed. So we're going to hear a lot more about these. I guarantee you in the future. But apparently he's created a lot of these. He's using the tech that he got from the gravity well.
Yeah.
And he's already deployed these out into the realms of the galaxy in the outer rim through hyperspace. And I think
he's basically roping off what he considers Nihil space.
Yeah. That's a good idea. That's a good analogy. So
it's kind of a net.
Yep.
Yeah. So what the Republic is doing, if you remember back from the first issue, or I'm sorry, from the beginning of this issue, that the Republic was going to send out reinforcements to, since the Jedi aren't going to do it, they're going to send the Republic Defense Coalition or whatever, the RDC. Right. They're going to send them out there to shore up and give them confidence that we are all the Republic, so on and so forth. So they've got these fleets of Republic cruisers all going out into this area. And the Storm Seeds, they have two things that they do. One, they snag you out of hyperspace. And then two, the storm aspect of it is they wreak all sorts of holy, what, all over your, I guess your machinery and your electronics to where it starts to blow you up.
Yep.
And so that's what we start to see. We see this entire Republic fleet get annihilated from, this right here. It's just explosions. I mean, this is a pretty dense picture. This is not really how hyperspace works.
Yeah.
We can have a lecture on how this is not real, but yes. But it's they cannot get to this area of the galaxy now because Marchion Ro has completely roped it off. Now, I think this is maybe the point you were perhaps wanting to make. If Marchion's Ro, so I believe Marchion's Ro real objective is not being told what to do. He's still a child in that way. That's kind of how I view him. He's a child, doesn't want to be told what to do, especially by people who have perceived power.
Right.
Republic and Jedi, right? Who haven't, they don't want them, but they still want to do whatever they want to do, manifest destiny kind of type of thing, right? At the same time, he has completely cut them off from being able to get out and do whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
I think. Right. I mean, I'm assuming they could probably turn these things off and go out and come back whenever they want. But at the same time, the Nihil haven't really been they kind of want to strike wherever they want and kind of go accumulate whatever they want. Not necessarily come back to a single place to call home. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the part that I'm with you. There's something that isn't consistent there, and it makes you distrust what Marchion Ro is saying.
Yeah.
I mean, plus he's a liar, but I mean, still, there's just something that doesn't work there based on everything else we know and some of his other actions that, of course, his peons aren't privy to.
Yep. And the other, I guess what's also happening here is they make mention of 10 full sectors of the Outer Rim have been sealed away. So it's a pretty large,
it's a big
piece of the land or piece of the galaxy. It's pretty much all of the Outer Rim, I would imagine. I don't know,
big chunk of it, at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So he's created this kind of separate space now. It's so weird too, or it's funny and cool at the same time. But he always talked about no space and how he was. You think about the Nihil where they were always trying to be in their own space, and part of it was for hiding and stealthness and all that. But there's probably some truth in here in him wanting to get away. So I don't know if this was part of the great destiny. I don't know if this is part of the simple truth that he was speaking to, that they just want to be left alone and they want to be independent in some way. But Lina So, they all look at Lina So at this point. They're like, because this happens, right? There's ships that are dying or blowing up, and they're all getting completely surprised by the fact that these storm seeds are out there and destroying ships that even try to enter into that space. And so you've got this last scene, which I thought was really cool. Everybody turns to Lina So because she is the chancellor, and they're like, "Hey, what are your orders, ma'am? What do we do here?" And
she's like, the look she gives you is just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it was drawn really well. Like it's
and you can just see the sadness. I mean, just the despair in her eyes, and then it's a very kind of basic drawing, but man, it captures everything that you would feel if you were in that position. Just this hopelessness. Like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they keep outwitting you every single turn, and they just keep making things worse and worse and worse. What do you do? And she's probably about at wit's end. I imagine there's going to be a lot of people at wit's end with her here pretty soon too.
Yeah, well, that's probably coming. We've got and this is not the last panel. There's one last piece here, but I do want to just kind of recap. I mean, you have Starlight Beacon's gone. You've got tons of Jedi that are now gone. The Jedi have retreated. They're afraid. They know there's a weapon out there that can kill them immediately, suck the life out of them, kill them, turn them into a husk. There's still the weapon that negates laser bolts out there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's may come into play here soon. And then you've got Marchion Ro, who is now essentially taken a piece of the galaxy for himself and made it so that no one can kind of even come in or go out because of these storm seeds that they disrupt gravity. And it's, I'm not sure how it works just yet. We're going to probably find out at some point. But they don't even have a way to get to the Nihil at this point because they've kind of essentially just blocked themselves in and claimed.
Well, they don't have a way they have a way to get to the people who are on the other side of that net.
Yeah. So you got somebody like Lina So who's been charged with the defense of the galaxy, the safety of the galaxy, and they're asking her like, "What do we do?" And she's like, "Hell if I know. I mean, this is
right.
I mean, it's gotten pretty bad at this point. So I'm, it just makes that phase 2 much more intriguing because I mean, you would have to think they're going to have to go learn from some of the lessons, right? Somehow they had to have stopped these guys before, and there's had these whack theories about people talking to people in the past and from the future and all that, and maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but nonetheless, the stage is pretty set. It's pretty grim, and if you follow Calvin Scott on Twitter, he's always talking about how yes, things are probably really bleak right now, but they're going to get better, and there is going to be hope. So I can't wait.
I thought he was going to say it could always get worse.
No, well, I think I think his lately his messaging has been hang in there, things are going to get better.
Things always do turn around, right?
Right.
But you see why, and I know we still have a panel here to go, but you see why they want these 2 issues to be the last thing you read.
Yeah.
For phase 1. And they didn't really come out that way, and that's why there's a little bit of confusion, but issues 1 and 2, read them together and read them after you've read everything else.
Yeah.
Especially Fallen Star. Excuse me, because you want to, for the despair you feel in Fallen Star, and then the hope you have at the very end of it, this completely rips all that away from you and puts you right back where you thought you were with Starlight going down the crapper. I mean, and that's really this emotional roller coaster that we're in of how could it get any worse after Starlight Beacon? And Marchion's right, like, well, hold my beer.
Right.
I'm going to show you. I'm not done with you guys yet.
Yep.
And it's a fantastic way
to the gonads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And while you're down, I'm going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fantastic way to end this phase. And really, again, we've always looked for a bad guy or a bad team or a bad people, whatever, to really say that they feel like a threat, and you feel like how are you going to get out of this? And Marchion Rowe has become that, that individual. And I'm happy for that. I'm thrilled about that, actually. This has exceeded my expectations about what he'd be able to do.
Yeah. And he did it. He wants everybody to know. Okay, let's get to the last couple. It's very quick. The last couple pages here. We just finally get some closure and some
It's
imagery.
messed up, actually.
Yeah.
I think I deserve a treat, is basically what Marchion Rowe says to Albert Tuck.
Yeah, and his treat is like I get to watch somebody who thinks they have power realize they don't have power, and I'm the reason they don't have power. That's kind of how it breaks down. It's what he tells them.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's bad enough this guy doesn't have his dignity because he's standing there with his, tentacles hanging out. Oh man, can't make that one up. But
he'll
he
be here
literally
all week, folks.
Yep. But yeah, he's sitting there butt naked, shackled, and then this he calls upon the nameless, and here we go. Here's the image of it, and I mean, I think this is probably the best one. It looks like they've got like these horns kind of thing growing out here on the top of its head.
Kind of, yeah.
And then
tentacles for a mouth, almost.
Yeah, well, and that it looks like a mind flayer from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, there you go.
And a bit like not an Aqualish, the Quarren. I mean, much thinner tentacles than a Quarren, right?
Oh, right, yes,
yeah.
Much thinner. Yeah,
and again, still more beast-like, but
a lot more of them. But that's it. I mean, that's that's the clearest picture.
That's not a husk, man. It looks like he just got deflated.
Yeah. So I guess Obertuck is dead.
Yeah. Now I just had a memory about High Republic 15 about who else dies. That was so sad.
Yeah. Well,
green goo everywhere.
You gonna spoil it?
I am actually.
I don't think he's dead.
Are you kidding me?
No, he can't die.
All right. So we're talking about Oberlin. Okay. So again, more spoilers because you're welcome. And so Lorna D gets away, basically. And she does that by shooting Oberlin, who, if you remember, he's this gelatinous goo. And so he wears this like astronaut spacesuit to keep it all in. And she busts a cap like right through his helmet.
But he's goo though. So that's what I'm saying.
Goo everywhere. There's goo everywhere. I mean, maybe he's alive.
I think he's just going to reform.
They sure make it seem like he's dead. Yeah. I mean, that'd be great if he came back and gave her another lecture about his like anatomy and stuff.
Right.
But still, she busts the cap right in his helmet. Okay, sorry, sidetracked there. But yeah, this guy is
he's very dead.
He's been vacuum sealed.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, vacuum sealed. So yeah, that's kind of I think that's the last panel. No, it's not. It's just the last panels are literally him just sitting there, um, looking at this thing happen and smiling creepily with his. He looks like Vincent
Vincent Price.
Price
Yeah, he
a
does.
little bit here with his little stash going on.
Yeah. And again,
And it
officially end of phase 1.
yeah, end of phase 1 says it there in the bottom right hand corner.
So a quick recap on the 2 issues. What'd you think? Is this what you were hoping for? Is this what you were expecting? Is this did you get what you needed? You know, that type of thing.
No, I'm never going to get what I'm needed. Never satisfied with Star Wars, but that's just the state of fandom, right?
Right. Well, you just gotta wait till the next book they can sell you.
Yeah. The first issue I liked a lot because I like origin stuff. I think I've mentioned that's why I like the Old Republic, and I like getting into I like understanding how things started and how it evolved and all that. And so, I was in just head over heels with that first issue. And the second part of this issue, or the first part of the second issue, was kind of okay for me. Nothing terrible at all. It got better about the midpoint, especially once once
we got Lena So's office.
Yeah, we got a Lena So. Well, even then, the Lena So stuff I thought was good. It was just I'm not a big political kind of guy. I don't.
Same here. Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't just. I'm sorry. I like shiny objects and explosions and guns and stuff like that. But and lightsabers. But I thought the very end of the storm seeds is a very interesting concept, and I was not expecting that. Right, this just came out of nowhere. It's like, I was worried that at some point we were just going to hit this level of knowledge about the High Republic where everything just becomes status quo. There's not going to be any new turns, new twists. And this is something new. I think this is fundamentally new. And the fact that it's out there now, and yeah, I know it's never been discussed, and they'll probably have to retcon this, and it'll get mentioned later on that, oh yeah, it did exist. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather they do that than continue on telling us the same stories and using all the same stuff over and over again. So I enjoyed that, and I especially enjoyed the very end because I've been wanting to see what this thing looked like. And I haven't had a chance to go back and look at some of the images from remember the concept art stuff? I want to say there was something in there that was similar to it. That they showed, but I think it was up on like 2 legs or something. It doesn't matter, but I thought it was great. It was a great 2 issues. Like you said, it felt like it was longer than just 2 issues. That's probably a good thing. And I think it's because it was broken up into those smaller acts, and so you were kind of jumping around. And it was just very dense, like we said at the very beginning, very dense in terms of amount of knowledge and background that you got. And the only problem is, and this is a good thing, it just leaves you wanting more. Like, like what's going to happen, and how the hell are you going to get out of all this now at this point?
Right. Yeah, I agree. The first issue I was really all in on. This one, I agree with you. It picked up as you went through the second half of it. But I think there were important moments. You had to have those. And I think if you've been following at least the main books and maybe a few of the main issues of the comics, this becomes a very satisfying close to phase 1. I think it really did a good job of really pulling things that we've read and we've experienced and we've known throughout what we've been reading. But also it pulls it together and gives you that context now within Marchion Ro, who's been a character that we've still know very little about, for as much time as we've had with him, which hasn't been as much as I think we thought we might get with him overall. Mm-hmm. But even just in these last 2 books, the more that we've learned, like you said, we keep getting more. And it's just this richer and richer history to it. And the scary part is there's so much more there. Yep. And we know we're going to go, when we go back in time here, 150 years for Quest of the Jedi, I know it feels like we're going to get more of that. And I'm like I said, I'm more excited about Quest for the Jedi. And I think these issues really kind of pushed me over that edge of actually being excited. I was kind of on the cusp and liked where we ended off with Fallen Star, but this really does give you a great tie-in. And you've been saying this for weeks and weeks, but this gives you a great tie-in to go back now and say, okay, let's go figure out this leveler stuff. And let's see what the Jedi knew. Let's see what the Ro family's kind of about. Let's look at the Santekas and the Graf families, because all of this stuff is now lining up that there's a ton of history here. And there's a lot of things that we need to understand before we jump right back into what we would consider our now present and where we need to go to start resolving in phase 3 for the rest of the series. But no, I think I thought it was really, really good. A very satisfying finish. The comics, I know I kind of beat this drum a lot. The last several issues of the High Republic, please go pick those up and read them. They're very, very good. They're very, very good. This is very good. Trail of Shadows was pretty good as well. But there's some of the writing and stuff that we're getting right now is really, really solid to very, very excellently good. That doesn't make any sense, but it's very good. So I'll just stop saying very good because it's very good.
I like excellently good. That was my favorite.
Excellently good. I feel like Bill and Ted all of a sudden. But still, I guess it speaks to the testament that we have. And now we're going to switch things up, man, with Claudia Gray doing comics. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think what's going on now. But
what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Hey, so I got one follow-up question on that, but there was one part I skipped and you jogged my memory here. So as far as the storm seeds go, we failed to mention that it looks like we're going to get more of the Santecas coming back in because they make mention that they've gone out now and they've consulted the Santecas to be like, hey, come help us figure what this is or figure out what this is.
They've sent Kevin Tarr.
Yep. So Kevin Tarr is coming back. So if you remember him from Light of the Jedi, and I think he crept up in the Rising Storm as well.
Yeah, he was name dropped, I think, more or less.
Yeah. But he's the big brain, right? So they've got him coming back. I think the Santecas wanted to hire him at some point. He was the guy that had come up with, well, it doesn't matter. You guys know. But so we're going to get Kevin Tarr back. It looks like we're going to have the Santecas back going into phase 3, I guess, at some point.
I think, like I said, I think we're going to get them phase 2 as well.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be interesting. Okay, so the only other question then we'll kind of end it here is you made a good point about how this really kind of put a big bow on it for you on phase 1 and kind of left you really wanting to see what was going to happen in phase 2. I just wonder, we do comics because we like reading them. We both collect them and we want to talk about them. But this does feel like some of the feedback that I've seen from the Fallen Star is that it didn't end the way they wanted to. Like it didn't feel like this grand finale. And it almost feels like you kind of have to have the Midnight Horizon and you have to have these two comics in that same group to really kind of say, okay, this is the end. This is everything you need to know to get ready for phase 2. And I just wonder how many people are like, no, I just stick to the main titles and are left feeling that way because they've not read this. I mean, there's some pretty big stuff that happens in this comic, right? That's going to play out a little bit later. So I just wonder how much of the people that haven't read these or don't watch our videos or listen to our show or don't follow these comics are going to feel going into phase 2.
This last wave was very much of all of the different waves. This one, you have to really have a very deliberate order of how you read things to get the most out of it. And it's a very complicated order. Like I would go, like as far as the books go, I'd probably do Mission to Disaster first, and then I'd do Fallen Star, and then I'd finish with Midnight Horizon. Midnight Horizon. Yeah, Fallen Star, and then finish with Midnight Horizon. Like as far as just the books, right?
Yes.
Because Midnight Horizon is a much better finish to fill in the gaps of what's, and then from there, now you get into, okay, you could work High Republic comic into between Midnight Horizon and Fallen Star. I think it works really well in there, probably a little bit before Fallen Star, and then finish that one up after. And then this clearly, and then you could do Trail of Shadows kind of at the same time. But this clearly has to come at the end. And so I get it. I think if you want to call it criticism, I think it's fair because this is the first time where we have seen every line of book, whether it's a comic, whether it's a limited series comic, if it's a different limited series comic, a young adult, middle grade, adult book. I mean, all of them in this wave have mattered in their own way, and they all build a very robust story. And I think a really fantastic story of how well this can work. And I know some people will complain about this, or maybe, well, I'll just use the word complain, that they don't want to have to read all the things to understand what's going on. I don't think you still have to. I don't think you have to do that. But I think you kind of should want to, because it's just that solid. I mean, it really is that enriching to the content. And I've been thankful that when we've touted like Midnight Horizon in particular, for the folks like Lauren who have gone and read it or listened to it, or Stephanie, they have been like, yeah, that was great. I mean, that was definitely worth the spot on the bookshelf, which always makes me feel good that I didn't give a really terrible recommendation because I'm not very good at recommending books in general. But, but I think this wave has just been so strong across the board that you can see why you might want to read all this stuff. But I also get it. It's a lot. Yeah. And it's a lot to afford. And I get that too, and that's why you have us. You get 2 hours of two guys talking about Star Wars.
Yep.
But
just two guys. Well, okay. Well,
is it too much? I mean, just briefly, do you think it's too much? The way that they did Wave 3 and it's been kind of packed like that and across the board, is it just too much? That's kind of what I'm hearing. Maybe it's just too much to be able to handle or to be able to consume.
Yeah, I think there are some people that are in that camp of I don't have time to read everything, and I'll read the main books. Or you've got people that said I don't read any of the books. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're
then they've never followed iRepublic, then I guess.
Yeah, no, they haven't, Rondo. But if you've if you're into the High Republic, my gut tells me you're at least going to, if you're not going out and buying it, you're probably going to go watch the recap videos and get caught up on it and just kind of know the highlights. I don't know if you'll listen to a 2-hour show on 2 comics that we just did, but I mean, there got people out there that do 15-minute videos and 10-minute videos of you being able to kind of just get the highlights of stuff, which I think is fine. But I feel like if you are following the High Republic and you enjoy it, you're probably going to go do that. If you're not reading on your own, you're going to at least go seek that free stuff out before buying it. I would just, if you have the means and the funds, like you said, I would recommend it as well, just because it is very enriching, and it kind of gives you a better picture of where all this is going and how we got here and all that.
And that actually, I haven't mentioned this to you yet. I keep meaning to, but staff actually made a suggestion to me, I guess probably going on a week or two now, of, hey, why don't you guys do a TikTok where you just do like a 1 to 3 minute recap of a comic? Very much what you were saying there. We just kind of knock out like here's the key points of the story and things like that. And maybe now that if this thing pans out with Marvel like it seems like it is, maybe we have that opportunity to maybe do some short form type of things just for the people who want to get caught up on it. Not necessarily our take on it, the really super deep dives into it, but hey, I just want to kind of know what goes on in the story. Yeah. And we've done some of that on Patreon in the past too, but if that's something that's interesting to y'all, drop us a line and let us know. CantinaCastFanMail@gmail.com. Although we might be changing that here soon, hopefully. Or of course on all the social medias, the CantinaCast. And Discord, is that what you say, Albert? Yeah, eargluemedia.com/Discord is a great place to come interact with us too and give us a lot of great suggestions. And if you are a Patreon member, you have a dedicated channel there. Well, I don't know if we were wrapping up, but I just started.
No, we got to get out of here. I'm still thinking, like, do we have a TikTok? I don't even know if we do. Do we have one?
We do not have one, I don't think.
Unless
she went and she may have gone and made one and didn't tell me, because I know she was pretty all
Someone's
over
going to take it. I know, they always take it.
Oh, damn it. All right, well, I'll go do it after this. It means I have to actually download TikTok.
Can I do, like, dance videos on that, too? Because that would be fun.
You have to do it like paper cutouts and make them like stop motion animation with paper cutouts of like Marchion Rowe with his flowing hair.
Okay. I'm down with whatever, man. I'll do TikTok videos for 1 to 3 minutes or whatever. Actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea. It'd be a way to use
It's just one of those things for people who just want to, pick
okay,
up and
Steph, I get it.
on.
I'll do it. Okay, fine. Thank you.
I think it was all of us were going to do it, but whatever.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right.
We'll figure it out. I don't have any issues in my mailbox yet, so.
Yeah, me either. Hey, don't forget,
much.
You can call and leave us a voicemail, 803-717-CAST, 803-717-2278, and we'll play your voicemail on the air if it's appropriate.
Right.
I think that we have to say that, but
yeah, if you find cool stuff, text us. Although we have awesome channels in Discord too, where we have collectors channels and meme, everything else. So if you find something cool, we do like to have it there because people love to interact and see what you're coming across out there. We have some pretty funny stuff as well there. So again, eargluemedia.com/Discord. Again, Qui-Gon Jay, thank you for signing up for Patreon. If anyone is interested in Patreon, we do usually in a normal week, we have a general release show like this one, and then we'll also have a Patreon show. We are planning a Patreon show for this weekend, which will be more on Marchion Rowe. Where this was more focused on the issues of Marchion Row, we will actually dig into Marchion Row kind of across the board and across all of the mediums that we have, and see what else we have more to learn about him in a Patreon episode. So that'll be Sunday. We do those live streams for everyone, but once the live stream's over, then it goes into the vault and Patreon only, and you can find those at patreon.com/thecantinacast, both video and audio only. So if you'd like to support the show, everything you send us does go right back into the show. And as you can see, we're trying to expand some of our offerings and things that we're already interested in and kind of reading. So if that's something you want to do, give us some feedback there as well. We'd love to hear it.
Yes.
I am very verbose tonight.
You must have had some coffee or something before the show came.
You know what? I had a coffee chip ice cream.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that is it.
So like you're stemmed on coffee and sugar.
That's right. I'm on stems. It's medicinal.
Medicinal stem.
I got it from Leox.
If anybody's going to give it to you, it's that dude. So
that is true. All right.
Okay. Well,
okay, shout outs. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Twan, Steph, Jonathan, Lauren, Risk, Ash, Diego, Katya, and Qui-Gon J. Thank you so much for showing up, and for all the folks in the background, and for those that are interacted with it and gave us a little thumbs up and all that. We appreciate it. We'd love to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see the live stream as well as get notifications if you hit the little bell. So be sure to check that out. And thank you guys so much for showing up tonight.
Kathy Jones and Richard Williams were the two that gave us a little thumbs up or reaction.
Oh, so awesome. Thank y'all.
Okay. Next show is Sunday night, provided I don't go camping and get sick again.
Yeah, please don't.
But Marchion Row, and then we'll be breaking down more High Republic stuff for the next couple weeks at least. Beyond that, we've got some stuff we're going to break down the Fallen Star a lot more, and we're going to get into some of the other comics like Trail of Shadows, and we'll do a kind of a recap on the High Republic series a little bit later as well.
Q&A is coming down the road, folks, to start getting your questions in. Kenobi's going to be hitting us hard here in a few weeks, it sounds like, so, and then on the road to Celebration.
Yep. Wow, it's going to be busy.
It's going to be a very busy couple of months here.
Yes. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.